and it's finally here. The Syulen is the coolest starter ship from Morphologists, and Architect reviews the Gattac Syulen. Here we go. Very fancy. Gattac. You know what? I'll say however I want. Okay. This doesn't look like a review. This looks like a ship commercial.
Choosing the right ship to start off with often comes down to a question of utility, but how a ship makes you feel should never be overlooked. This is the new Gattac Syulen, an alien starter ship that offers something different for players starting off in Star Citizen.
Starter ship.
With substance. However, its alien design may prove a challenge for new pilots and may not suit just...
He has better B-roll than CIG? Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually done in-game without any additional tools. I think that makes it pretty special, and he kind of hits their level.
Anyone. Join me then as I take you on a tour of the first
Pappy.
fully alien starter ship Star Citizen has ever introduced. On this latest installment of an Architect Reviews, we'll examine its specifications, then dive deeper into its design, both external and internal, which together will round out a more complete view of what this Xi'an ship has to offer. By the end, I hope to have helped you decide, and if I've done a good job and you think I deserve it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to let me know that you want more.
Oh, I thought he was going to land in that open field. I was about to say.
While the Syulen is more than its utility...
But before he gets into this, listen, I think watching videos like this, maybe I won't be able to provide as much additional context to a video or something like that, like I normally would be able to, for more conversational things. But I'm really just super, super curious about Morph's feelings, because the reason I melted something and got the Syulen, because I think the interior of the ship is something that means more to me than anything, and the interior of that ship is exactly what I look for. And for a starter, it pretty much hit every mark. It feels like you can live in it. It feels like you don't have to spend much time at a city, at a station, at an outpost. I don't need a base. This is my base, and that's kind of what it made me feel.
You should still know what you're getting yourself into should you buy the ship. For price then, the ship is currently on sale for $72.25 on the website, but will go up to $85 following the conclusion of the sale as a...
Is that true? Or is that some sort of tax that he has? Because for me, it was $65 and $70. So I don't think he has the... Oh, that's the starter pack. Gotcha.
Standard starter pack. It's classified as light freight or multi-purpose and can...
So I was duped the whole time. I'm thinking this thing is $65.70 as a starter pack. That was just a standalone. Okay, that kind of makes it a little less cheap than I thought it was.
Accommodate both human and Xi'an pilots, but don't let the Xi'an part fool you. There are no Xi'an aliens in the game just yet. It has 3 external cargo racks that can carry up to 6 SCU of cargo boxes, plus an additional 0.5 SCU of stowage underneath the bed on the interior. The ship is also quite agile thanks to its 24 maneuvering thrusters, 3 retro thrusters, and 6 main thrusters, which can deliver up to 19 Gs of forward acceleration and can propel it to reach a top speed of 1,200 meters a second outside of quantum travel. The ship also boasts a large quantum fuel tank of 2,900 liters, allowing it to install fast quantum drives without depleting its drive jumping at standard ranges. This will be a great ship option then for larger systems like Pyro. On the offense, the Syulen is comparably well armed with its contemporaries, boasting 3 size 3 gun mounts and 12 size 2 missiles on custom racks. When it's time...
Who are its contemporaries? I guess the Titan and the Nomad? So, yeah.
To defend, it also has 2 size 1 shields, providing adequate protection for both ship and cargo, although its large silhouette may provide a large target to skilled PvP pilots. But with those basics out of the way...
Yeah, the Arrow has 3 size 3, same as this, but so does the Nomad and so does the Titan.
Let's now move on to touring the ship. Defining the Gattac Syulen as alien in design for Star Citizen goes beyond just interesting shapes.
Mustang
and
Delta is not its
When you
contemporary.
first encounter the ship in its landed form, you'll discover that its orientation is very different from anything else in the game. Instead of taking off horizontally like a space plane, if you will, it looks directly perpendicular to where it's landed for takeoff. This vertical organization then drives the entire ship's design, from the cockpit at its pinnacle down to its transforming tri-engine propulsion system that serves as a support while landed. In terms of shape language, the designers suggest a preference for strong hexagons and triangular forms. Much of the exterior comes down to variations on this theme then, which blend together with more organic polygon forms that physically tie each piece together. Despite its complexity though, its tri-pattern form from afar still feels understandable, which I think is quite an accomplishment given how detailed...
This is what kills the ship, by the way, as a combat ship. Right here, what you're looking at. Most fights, you're pointed at each other like this, right? Look at how wide it is.
The ship is.
You
and I
can't
think
miss.
This probably comes down to them just spending enough time and getting the basic shape down before moving on to doing the detailing, which is probably
beautiful.
just good ship design in general.
It's very bad
Orientation, though, isn't the only thing that's alien about the design. The materials selected to clad its exterior are also equally as unusual. You may have already noticed that instead of something like exotic metals or heat shield composites, the Gattac offers stone as a material, complete with the vein highlights.
Yeah.
This suggests that the designers wanted to tell a story about how material sciences and aesthetics evolved differently for the reptilian Xi'an race. It may be that designers are the only ones that notice this kind of design storytelling, but the effect is still substantial for viewers of it. And while it might be a bit cliche for alien space,
like, I'm curious, what kind of stone is that? Is that a very special thing, you know, like I don't know. I'm very curious what all this the story behind it is. That something we're going to be mining and using to create things, you know?
Ships, the color purple scheme they have going on is just really cool. And I also like how they intersperse some different colors to mix it up on the back engine thrusters. Because of this strange design though, they also needed to come up with a unique solution for cargo. In this vertical design, it's a lot more difficult to put the cargo in a traditional cargo bay, as it could obstruct the way to get to the cockpit, which is now very far off the ground instead of close to it like in more traditional designs.
I really hope they, whenever they do it, that they upgrade this ship with the triangle cargo. Because I think that's the piece that was missing from it for sure. With the Raylan, that, I mean, what was interesting about the Raylan, outside of it being alien and the unique cargo aspect of it, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, it didn't sell me on the ship really, but I thought that it was very cool. And when this came out, who was kind of keeping an eye out for that and went like, oh, when they saw the regular boxes.
This by putting the 6 SCU of cargo on the outside of the ship's hull, allowing the vertical circulation to go straight up the axis of the ship. This does, however, carry several downsides, such as not having the ability to hold anything other than a single 1 SCU box of cargo in each slot, or for that matter, a vehicle or any kind of salvage you might pull off a wreck. But whether or not that matters to you is only for you to decide. But you should weigh it against what's on the interior, because it's a lot more than other ships within its class.
Exactly. Okay, so we might be in agreement here, because the interior just sold me.
The presentation is fittingly unique. Depressing an alien symbol near one of the faceted sides releases a series of animated steps held up by the manufacturer's GravTech. The trivial nature of its utilization is perhaps a way to subtly communicate the Xi'an's mastery of a technology that humans are still and lore struggling with. If it's possible then to anthropomorphize the lizard turtle people, we might say that they're showing off a bit here. Stepping up the magical floating steps into what I call the foyer, the interior's design translates the overall shape language of the exterior pretty successfully. However, the designers clearly made a conscious decision here to err more on the side of organic shapes as opposed to rough polygons, which I think was a pretty good call, because despite the tight confines, it feels pretty cozy with these smooth forms.
Yes, that was, you look at it and you were like, it's got to be so cramped in here. And then you go inside and it felt quite big, and I think it's probably because of the high ceiling as well.
Just as on the exterior, interior panels layer here and sweep up from the floor
Covenant
to the wall,
feel,
to the
true.
ceiling, and unify the whole space together in a really cohesive way. I particularly like the subtle detailing that you'll find on places like the metal paneling of the escape pod, or at least I think that's what this is. It speaks to the deceptively simple nature of the interior, which turns out to be quite complex
One of my favorite
when you start
parts.
doing things like pressing buttons on these access panels, which fold out and array using the grav tech a bunch of the ship's internal systems. And on the subject of utility, just to the left of the escape pod you'll find access to a gun rack, which also has some utility slots which are color-coded. The organizational part of my brain, which doesn't always win, really appreciates this detail. But if I had to make a critique, it would be that the space feels maybe a little bit too dark. I also feel like the button to trigger the stairs to exit the ship should have been a little bit more clearly
Maybe Jian had more like sensitive to light eyes or whatever.
demarked from the other buttons which open panels. This would have made its use a little bit more legible. And finally, after having used this ship on a box delivery mission, which is just one of the things I do to test a starter ship, I realized that there's also really no good place to put a single small handheld box. This is something I wish they would do more on starter ships, as it's a pretty typical starter mission that new players will do. And while you could argue,
I think it's one of those things that they just never set those boxes up to be put on a cargo grid, but we've seen that they'll do that pretty soon, right? They've been showing it with the cargo updates on ISC
just
and
throw it
stuff.
on the floor, having a designated design space for it would have made it feel just a little bit more crafted for the needs of new players. But these, in the end, are kind of like minor nitpicks and don't affect the overall success of the ship in my mind. So it's high time we moved up a deck in this ship, and this ship actually has 3 decks, one of the impressive things about the Syulen.
And extremely
Up a
unique.
uniquely shaped elevator, one deck, labeled in Xi'an text, is the habitation area of the ship. Just across from the entrance to the right side, you'll find a small desk, presumably for eating, for whatever the Xi'an eat. And then to the left of that, you'll find a small sleeping cubby of unusual design. This is yet again another sign of the ship's alien origins, where it's not just the form of the bed, but its unusual stone materials that once again showcase that this is an alien space. Suffice it to say, you're probably not buying this ship for the creature comforts then, but at least they...
No, but I mean, I know Morph has, but there's some, architect designs, like interior designs that integrate stone into their very dark, and spaces, and then use light to make it look cool and stuff.
Give us a nice pillow. Just to the left of that, though, and through
it does look like a damp cave.
Overly complex set of multi-panel doors, you'll find the ship's head. Depressing another button on the wall will reveal the ship's toilet, which is nothing really new to Star Citizen. They've done this on a number of ships, and I hope they keep it up because animated toilets are hilarious. I like to imagine someone accidentally hitting the button while they're using it. Unexpected, though, is just to the left of that, right when you walk in, where there's a wall urinal thing, which so turns out to be a Xi'an toilet, which doubles as a hand-washing basin for humans, which is a little bit gross, but I prefer just not to think about it. Now that we've
It's only gross if your roommate is a Jian, I think.
Learned a little bit too much about Xi'an xenobiology, it's time for us to step up to the last deck, the flight deck. Revisiting the elevator, I'd like to point out though, just before we go up there, that there's a cool window detail in each corner of the shaft here. I really love seeing viewports on ships and wish that Star Citizen would do them more. It's cool to be able to see what the outside world is like before you step out to the exterior. When you arrive, you're presented with the showpiece of the ship's interior, which was suitably referred to by one of the ship team as a cathedral-like space. That's exactly how I would compare it, especially with the canopy topping the very pinnacle of the space. When the light casts in, it gives it a very ethereal feeling. This makes the flight seat feel almost like an altar or a throne. The adjacent wall paneling also worked to help emphasize this with all the lines that seem to lead your eyes to the seat,
for a
giving
second
in
I was
to the
like, all right, now we're taking it. Now we're taking it to a level that I'm uncomfortable.
temptation to sit down then pays off in a very satisfying way. Activating the flight seat catapults you up into the canopy at the very pinnacle of the space through an elaborate dance of grav-supported elements. It feels like a celebration of your arrival each time you use it, making this flight seat probably the most elaborate and exciting of any ship currently in the game. Arriving at the top, though, will remind you once
I don't know, of all the things in the ship, the animation to get in and out of the seat is not something that even phases me whatsoever. I actually find it to be quite annoying.
Again, of the unusual nature of the Syulen. Depending on what hangar you were assigned, it's not unlikely that you're now staring at the ceiling of the hangar. And we arrive then at the primary reason for why this ship may not be the best choice for every new player. Among all the ships available in Star Citizen to fly, the Syulen may just be the most challenging to take off and land in, depending on the situation. The best advice I can give you then, if you're going to fly it, is to slowly touch off and then pitch the ship forward until you see the entrance without retracting the landing gear. If you have something like a Tobii Eye Tracker 5 like me, the Syulen canopy also offers some pretty good visibility, which you can use to your advantage to spot any obstacles on your way out. Once leveled off, though, it's a simple matter of throttling forward to clear the doors, where you can then retract the landing gear and deploy your wings. And landing can be just as tricky, but I found that reversing the takeoff sequence can work pretty well. You fly level with the pad that you intend to land on, and then pitch up until you see 90 degrees. Then you can either slowly back up until you get a landed indicator, or cut your power to engines altogether and let gravity do the rest, though just be sure that you're not too far off the ground if you choose to do that.
I think the landing is way simpler than they make it out to seem. Not Morph necessarily, because I think he simplified it nice and easy, but on their specific YouTube video.
You can get past the challenging takeoff and landing sequence, though. The ship is a pleasure to fly and look at. The takeoff animation, thruster animations, and lighting and silhouette all come together in a very impressive way. The Gattac Syulen to me then turns out to be form and function in a cohesive package. As I said in the interior section, though, I would like to see some more design consideration for new players, like a place to put small delivery packages, but this is just a minor concern. The ship is still fantastic, and clearly the ship team had a lot of fun here in thinking of ways the Xi'an race's lore could inform the ship's design in meaningful ways. In terms of price, it offers a lot of benefits that other ships in its class just don't, including one of the biggest interiors of the entire lineup. However, its lack of an internal cargo bay make its versatility not as good as that on the Titan or Cutter, which makes it incapable of carrying things like salvage or small vehicles. What's left then to decide is whether or not its impressive design, interior space, and decent firepower are enough to outweigh the more challenging flight profile and cargo limitations.
I don't think anybody's concerned about delivery missions at this time. Maybe in the future if they ever build them up, but I don't think any player. Okay, so who's buying this ship? Is it a new player buying this ship? Are you recommending this ship to a new player? I'm not. Right? I think it's like your average Star Citizen enjoyer who's been enjoying it for a while and go, that's cool. I'd like this to maybe be my non-career driver ship. That's sort of how I went about it. And I don't know if that's what other people are thinking, but for me, it's if I'm not mining and I'm not cargo hauling and I'm not salvaging, I might use this a lot. It's got one thing that he hasn't mentioned is how much quantum fuel it has. 2,500, I think, around that range, 2,000. So with an Atlas drive, you could put a VK00 on this thing. It's pretty good from that aspect. So it's, like not having to refuel for a while. You could put a very fast drive on it and get across the system. So it's good. You know, why not? It's basically an alien Titan cutter, exactly, and it's way better than the cutter in terms of firepower. But similar cargo capacity, right? If you really think about it, and the cutter doesn't do anything unique, where this does. I'd like to see the cutter be more unique to come up to the standard that they're providing here. But
a pure utilitarian perspective, it falls a bit short. But as I said at the start, how a ship makes you feel should be just as important. So what have you decided?
100%.
Is the Syulen for you, or are you sticking with the tried and true cutter or Avenger Titan? Let me know down below. Also, as a special thanks to those of you who have stayed all the way until the end, I've got a Syulen to give away to one of you. All you need to do is like, be subscribed, and tell me in the comments what you like about the Gattac Syulen. I'll respond to the winner and let them know that they've won in about a week from now using this account. And you'll know it's me if you look for the official checkmark next to my name. So be sure not to get scammed. There's been a lot of scammers in the comments recently, and I just can't ban them fast enough. So good luck out there, and see you guys in the verse.
It is ridiculous, but that was cool. I mean, I think him and I feel very similar. He didn't spend as much time on the exterior as he did on the interior, because I think that's where the ship really shines. Is with the interior of the ship. It just, again, I'll reiterate it. What I like about Star Citizen is the ship interiors, is the fact that you could walk around them and it could feel like you're home. And I think that this ship did a really good job with that while also being super unique. But again, it's just a feel thing. It's not a game thing yet. But there's some ships that, if they ever do put the little touches onto ships, like the kitchen working, or atmosphere, and maybe more, I don't want to say survival, because I don't think any of us want Star Citizen to turn into DayZ, but needs and things that your character or your ship need to be maintained, as the ones with interiors, right? I think that those certain ships are way better set up for the future of the game and where the direction is kind of going than others, right? I mean, let's look at the Aurora and Mustang Alpha. Horribly set up for the future, where a ship like this is, going to be plug and play when it comes to things like that. Although no real kitchen in the Syulen, is there? So I don't know. Certain things are very, very important to me, and the interior is one of those, because that's the one thing that separates Star Citizen from every other game. It's really the only thing right now, outside of its scale maybe, that separates Star Citizen from every other game, is the fact that you can walk around your ship and your ship is basically your home, right? I think the only other game that's close to it is, what was that survival game where you were on the wooden ships that crawled like crabs? I mean, that's like the closest thing, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Am I worried about the Atmo flight behavior? I mean, it's got so many maneuvering thrusters. Not really. It can float stairs. It can float a ship. Yeah, Last Oasis. I don't know. That's like the closest thing to this is that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what's special, and that's what drew me to the ship. So let me know what you guys think. But thank you, Morph, as always, and I'm glad we agreed on things. Last time I watched an Architect Reviews, he destroyed my love for the whole sea.